The Lionesses have roared. How Cameroon finally conquered Africa. For more than 2 decades, Cameroon came close. 3 finals, 3 heartbreaks, 2004, 2014, 2016. 3 times the indomitable Lions stood 1 game away from becoming African champions. And 3 times Nigeria stood between Cameroon and history. But on August 16, 2026 in Rabat, Morocco, the story finally changed. Cameroon 3, Malawi 0. The indomitable Lionesses are finally African champions. And this isn't just the story of a football match. This is the story of a team that was almost forgotten, given a second chance, rebuilt in 6 weeks, and somehow turned that opportunity into the biggest moment in the history of Cameroonian women's football. They weren't even supposed to be here. Let's start with something remarkable. Cameroon did not qualify for WAFCON 2026 through the normal route. They were eliminated by Algeria, losing 3-1 on average in the final qualifying round for a country that had appeared in 13 previous editions and reached 3 finals. It looked like another painful chapter. But then CAF expanded the tournament from 12 to 16 teams. Cameroon received one of the additional places based on their ranking, their FIFA ranking, and suddenly the Lionesses had one chance to come back. And what did they do with that chance? They won the whole thing. How many teams get a second chance like that and actually turn it into history? A new coach, a new era. And there was another major change. Cameroon arrived in Morocco with a new coach, Valentine Ngah. Even her appointment was historic. Ngah became the first woman to serve as head coach of the senior indomitable Lionesses. Think about that. A woman taking charge of Cameroon's senior women's national team for the first time, and within weeks, leading that team to its first African championship. Ngah had been coaching FC Bolova, women's team in Cameroon's Guinness Super League, and was known for tactical discipline and strong warrior mindset. She didn't have years to build this national team. She had weeks, and somehow she created something incredibly difficult to beat. Discipline, offensive organization, efficiency, and lead. The road to Rabat. Cameroon began the tournament in Group D, and they didn't exactly ease into it. At the group stage, Cameroon beat Mali 2-1. It was a difficult opening week, and then with Ghana, Cameroon beat Ghana 1-0, which was a narrow victory that showed this team was learning how to win. Compared to the newbies at the tournament, gave Cameroon a difficult one. The group stage schedule and result placed Cameroon among the teams advancing to the knockout phase. Then, they took down the champions, their almighty nemesis, Nigeria, the defending champions, the most successful team in WAFCON history. 10 WAFCON titles, and Cameroon had never beaten Nigeria in a WAFCON final. So this time, Cameroon wasn't playing for a place in the final. They were playing to remove the biggest obstacle standing between them and the trophy. Cameroon defeated Nigeria 1-0. The defending champions were gone. Cameroon were in the semi-final, and more importantly, they had qualified for the 2027 Winners' World Cup in Brazil. The victory wasn't just a win, it was a psychological liberation. There was a wall Cameroon had with Bihina, the goalkeeper. Then came Morocco, a semi-final, a packed stadium, and 90 minutes of football placed no goal. So Cameroon needed someone to become the difference. Bihina, the young goalkeeper, had already become one of the stories of the tournament, and in her penalty shootout, she delivered. Cameroon defeated Morocco 3-1 on penalties after the semi-finals ended 0-0, with Bihina playing a very decisive role. Cameroon were going to the final. At the final, across the field stood Malawi, a team playing in its first ever WAFCON, a team led by the extraordinary Marie Ngah sisters, a team that had already shocked defending champions Nigeria and reached the final as the tournament's leading scorers. Malawi entered the final with 12 goals and had produced one of the tournament's great Cinderella stories. But Cameroon had something Malawi had never experienced, a WAFCON final before, and this time they weren't going to lose it. There was Ngah. Let me pause here for a minute and tell you about the Ngah show. 20 minutes, that's how long Cameroon needed. Marie Ngah, 1 goal, the first goal. 10 minutes later, Naomi Eto'o doubled the lead with an incredible pivoted bicycle kick. And just before halftime, Ngah again scored the 3rd goal. Before Malawi could even breathe, Ngah scored twice, with Naomi securing once and providing an assist. Marie Ngah also assisted Eto'o's goal, 3 goals in the first half. And suddenly, Cameroon were 45 minutes away from history. Marie Ngah, the finisher. You can't talk about the finals without talking about her. 2 goals in the finals. Timing, movement, composure, the ability to finish the biggest chances on the biggest stage. Naomi Eto'o, of course, no relationship to Samuel Eto'o, the future. 21 years old, goal scorer, creator, and one of the clearest symbols of where Cameroonian women's football could be heading. Eto'o had already announced herself internationally at the 2024 Women's World Cup, scoring twice against Mexico. I remember the name, Naomi Eto'o. Put that in the books because we're going to hear about her in the future, because she is the future. And this is just the beginning for her. Gabriel Aboudi Ongene, the bridge between generations. And then there is this unbeatable veteran on the team, the captain, the player affectionately known as OG7. She entered the tournament for her 8th time after 16 years in the national team and had publicly spoken about one major achievement missing from her international career, winning the African title. She had been there in the heartbreak. She had lived the disappointment. And now she gets to leave the tournament with the trophy. That's what this victory means emotionally. Cameroon had a defense that was unseen before on the African Cup of Nations. This defense is what ultimately defines Cameroon's team, not just the goals, the defense. Cameroon conceded only twice before the final and completed the knockout stages without conceding a goal. Nigeria couldn't break them. Morocco couldn't score. Malawi couldn't score. This wasn't simply a team that found goals. This was a team that knew how to close games. The coaching staff. There was a coaching staff led by Valentin Gele, inherited a team that needed confidence, organization, and new identity. The new technical setup included Ngole alongside coordinator Dimitri Lipov and assistant coach Frederic Anikini, among other staff. What Ngole managed to do in a remarkable short period was establish a clear identity, discipline, organization, defensive resilience, and clinical attacking. And perhaps most importantly, she showed that women can lead at the highest technical level of African women's football. So did Cameroon break any records? Let's talk about history. First, this was the first WAFCON title. So Cameroon are now African champions for the first time. They became only the 4th nation in Women's African Cup of Nations history, joining Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and South Africa. 4 times finalists. This was Cameroon's 4th WAFCON final. 3 previous heartbreaks in 2004, 2014, and 2016. 3 finals defeats. And then 2026, finally champions. Knockout defensive record, and perhaps the most impressive statistic. Cameroon went through the entire knockout stage without conceding a goal. So what does this mean for a country like Cameroon? This trophy means something different in Cameroon. Cameroon has always had a powerful football identity. When we talk about someone like Roger Miller, the Indomitable Lions, the Olympic champions, African champions, World Cup history. But the women have spent years living in the shadow of that legacy. Now, Lionesses have their own continental crown. And perhaps, even more importantly, they have a generation of young girls watching them and thinking, I can do that. So what does this mean for African football itself? And this is bigger than Cameroon. Look at what happened in Morocco. Malawi reached its first final. Cameroon won its first title. Morocco reached the semifinals. Nigeria made the knockout rounds. The tournament expanded to 16 teams. And 4 semifinalists earned qualifications to the 2027 Women's World Cup. This is what growth looks like. The old hierarchy is being challenged. Nigeria remains the giant. South Africa is still a champion. Morocco is investing heavily. Zambia has world-class talent. We're talking about Barbara Banda. Malawi has announced itself. And now Cameroon, its first star on the continent. So if you still sit there and think that women's football has no place, you're kidding yourself, because now is the time. Now is the time to look at it. Now is the time to invest in it, because African women's football and women's football as a whole is soaring to the top. And the technique is there. The tactical play is there. The discipline is there. Beauty of the game is there. And these are ladies doing it. Now, we're not going to sit and say we compare this to the men's game, 2 different things. However, the women are becoming a very, very strong force to reckon with. So here's the bigger question. Can Cameroon and Africa turn this into infrastructure? Can this victory lead to better women's league, better salaries, better facilities, more professional clubs, better youth development programs, stronger coaching pathways for women, more international investment, more sponsorship, and more girls playing football? Because winning the trophy is the achievement. Building the ecosystem around the achievement is the opportunity. From elimination to a second place, from a new coach to a new identity, from 3 heartbreaking finals to 1 historic victory, from Bihina's hands to Ngamanga's goals, from Ongene's experience to Eto's emergence, Cameroon has finally conquered Africa. But perhaps the most powerful part of this story isn't that Cameroon won, is that a new generation of African women just watched them do it. And somewhere in Yaoundé, Douala, Bafoussam, Bamenda, Gaoua, Lagos, Accra, Lilongwe, Johannesburg, Dakar, a young girl, just a team of African women lift the Continental Trophy, and she may just have decided that football belongs to her too. This is BallAfrica, where we don't just tell you who won the game, we tell you what the game means. Cameroon are African champions. The Lionesses are finally raw.